Friends and folks, welcome to the Kaiju Lounge, your home for humor, opinions, and nerd shit. I'm your boss, Monster Noah Waterman, and my guest tonight is a YouTube toy reviewer, collector, recent birthday boy, and as of recently, a regular panel moderator for Kaiju Brooklyn, where we had our initial meeting.
What is it like having a con like Kaiju Brooklyn that is a little more niche, a little hyper specific, as opposed to, say, I don't know, a New York Comic Con or these bigger ones that are, a larger part of nerd culture in general? To see something niche down like this.
Oh, it's fantastic, honestly. Getting to G-Fest for me hasn't been easy because I mentioned this a million times today, but I'm in the comic industry, so there's other big cons in Chicago that I end up having to go to. So when G-Fest has always come around, I haven't been able to go. So to have something that's local for me in this community is incredible. It's something I've personally wanted to start for a long time. And when, John and Anthony started Kaiju Brooklyn, I was just like, I know them. So it was just like very awesome to jump aboard right away and be like, hey, I want to be part of this, whatever I could do to promote this and to help it out and to move it forward, has been fantastic.
Please welcome to the show, UltraZilla. UltraZilla, how you doing, man?
All right. Glad to be on the Kaiju Lounge.
Thank you. Love it. It feels appropriate. You've got the kaiju behind you. It's
kaiju,
it was never intended to be. Yeah. It was never intended to be a kaiju-based show, but I will say Kaiju Brooklyn really kicked me into a new gear. So I mean, let's just jump in. How was the rest of your con? I talked a little bit. You were busy. You were moderating. You had a table there. But how was it a success for you? Was it a good time? Like, how did you feel coming in and out of Kaiju Brooklyn?
Yeah, Kaiju Brooklyn was excellent. I think overall it was a huge success. I mean, having been there last year as well, like it grew a ton. The panels were huge. We talked about that. Like, I thought that was a much needed addition to Kaiju Brooklyn. Like, a lot of folks asked us about panels last year, and like the one thing I wanted to go to guys with as soon as it ended was, let's do panels next year. I will, I'll take care of it for you. So I pitched them right away. I was like, let's do panels. Let's figure this out. I'll help get it together, curate it, whatever, but let's do that because I think that's like the perfect spot to grow without like breaking the bank, basically. You could grow in a number of different ways. You could get like media guests from various kaiju movies and whatever. And that's going to cost you a ton of money. But how can you grow and be in the same space, while utilizing, the rest of this, industry city? And panels was a great way to do it, and it was something people liked and something people wanted. And I thought that turned out fantastic. Otherwise, for me, it was amazing. We did great as a vendor, which is excellent. It helps me as a collector and a reviewer because I get so much during the year that this has been for the last 2 years a perfect spot for me to just let some stuff go, just get rid of some stuff. And we did great. Like, it was awesome. Shout out to my wife, shout out to my son who helped with the table. It was just phenomenal all around. I got to meet a lot of folks that are into the channel. That's always humbling, people that actually know you, from what you're doing is always great. As someone that works in the comic industry full time, like as a freelance letterer, that's really cool. I'm part of the creative team, but I don't have folks coming up to me at Comic-Con saying, "Hey, aren't you the guy that lettered Batman?"
Right, you're not like sneaking your picture into Captain America or Batman or anything, right? It's like people don't get to see you unless they see your name written down somewhere.
Yeah, it's just like, but being on YouTube, reviewing toys, showing my face in a bunch of videos a lot, so people know me from that, and it's a really interesting dynamic that I've had for the last couple of years, going to these shows and having people recognize me from that. And
Right.
this was like so much more. I mean, granted, the channel has grown a lot since last year too, but this was like a real like level up on that stuff, which was like it blows me away, honestly. So it was a great show for me all around.
That's great, that's great. When you're running a booth like this, is most of your stuff, is it just extras you don't want? Is it duplicates? Like, what goes into building your booth from your personal collection?
You know what? It's just a lot of stuff that I'm like, I reviewed it, and mostly everything I reviewed. That's how I started this because I was collecting when I went freelance. I started collecting more heavily, and it just dawned on me like I'm like, what am I doing with all this stuff other than putting it on a shelf? Let me do something more with it, and that's how I started reviewing. But the more I've done, the more I've gotten. It's like you got to feed the channel, like you got to.
Yeah,
It's like a
yeah.
monster. You got to like little pet. You gotta keep feeding it to keep it going. So you keep getting more and more, and there's just some stuff after you review, I'm like, it wasn't that great. I feel like I more got that because I wanted to review it than wanted it in my collection.
Right.
And then there's stuff that like some companies send me as well. So it's just like I'll review anything. If you want to send me something, I'll review it. Like as long as there's the understanding that when I'm reviewing something, I don't, look, there's a big difference, in my opinion, between a reviewer and an influencer. I'm not here to just
Mhm.
like say, hey, go buy this stuff. It's amazing. Look at this. It's so cool. I'm not doing that. Like, you want to send me stuff, understand that I'm actually going to review it. And if it's bad, it's bad.
Right.
So there's that stuff too that I just like I don't need. So it's a combo of both. And then there's just some stuff you get thinking that you're gonna love and you just don't. So now that I have this Kaiju Brooklyn con to get rid of this some of this stuff, it's like I just start setting stuff aside for it now. Even like already, I've
Oh,
reviewed a few
wow.
things since the con. And I'm like, that'll go good for Kaiju Brooklyn, or that's not gonna fit at Kaiju Brooklyn because I review a lot of different things, and that'll be better for like an eBay sale or if I do another show.
Yeah. So do you ever get blowback for any bad reviews? Do people send you stuff and get a little ticked off that, like, you weren't as much of a fan as they hoped you'd be?
Well, that's an interesting dynamic, right? Like, what do companies expect from you? There's some companies, honestly, I'm not working with anymore, because of however way they want to go about it. Like if you didn't like what I said, that's fine. Like I'm I'm not in it for the free toys. I've said this from day
Right.
one. Like I love, hey, free toys are awesome. Who wants to spend your own money, right? But at the end of the day, when I started this channel, I was obviously not getting any free toys. It was a few years before someone, said, hey, let's send you some stuff. Um, so it was never a part of the channel to begin with. But, once it did become a part of the channel, it kind of snowballed. It's like, oh, these people send me stuff and now these people want to send me stuff. And like, but in the last 2 years, I'd say, but it's not just giving bad reviews because honestly, I'm a pretty positive person. Like, I try to look at things like, from a perspective of like, okay, somebody made this, like a company made this. Why did
Mhm.
they make it this way? And I don't approach things just from like, no offense, the fanboyish response of like, oh, they're just trying to screw us and, like cut costs and, give us shoddy product and product that's not, what the glamour shots were. Of course it's not. Like it never is, like
Yeah.
that's I try to look at it from a lot of different perspectives. So it's not just a matter of like, is there blowback? But I think some folks will be like, I don't really like that. There's certain companies that have things in place now where it's like, you really can't say too much, I
Right.
think, and I don't work with those companies anymore. So,
And I think that's part
I try to keep it as straight as possible. But again, I understand like various aspects of the business and, I try to keep a level playing field when I'm looking at this stuff.
No, I mean, that makes a lot of sense too, because if you're giving everything great reviews, you gotta think about the fans who are gonna be like, "Well, he loves everything. What can I
Right.
take seriously?" So, like, you would think from some aspects of the business, they'd want somebody who they know they're getting something genuine from, but the risk of that, of course, is, "Oh, maybe they don't like our product." I'm sure there's always a bit of a dichotomy there, and it's sort of working in the influencing space, you've been doing this for a while. I'm sure there's that mix between what's going to make the partners happy, what's going to make the fans happy, and what's going to make you happy. And trying to find where that Venn diagram fits in the center is always kind of the ever changing balance of somebody on YouTube.
Look, I look at it like this. As long as you keep things professional in the way you talk, in the way you present things, even a bad review, you know, it shouldn't piss off a company because, like I do see reviewers where they're just taking things personally. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, don't take things personally. What are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, I don't understand that review, why go about reviewing something like that? It's a toy. Let's cut to the chase. It's a toy, like, what is it
Take a
doing to
step
you?
back. What are we doing here, guys?
Right,
Let's not
like,
take ourselves
what
too
is
seriously.
happening here? So it's just like, when I see reviews like that, I'm like, I don't get it. Like, so as long as you're keeping things professional, I've learned. I mean, look, it didn't happen in a day, but I've learned over time, like, how to talk about a toy that's not great, and keep things like, in focus. Like, okay, look, I mean, obviously here's the thing. You can't really pull the wool over people's eyes if you're showing them a product, like I've seen
Yeah.
I've seen reviews where they're legit pointing out something that's totally messed up and them like not even talking about it. But like people see that, like, and at the end of the day, you want your subscribers to come back and you want to have that relationship is more important than any relationship with a company. Like I said, ultimately I can buy all this stuff without a problem, like, well, a problem being,
It depends.
money wise, it's always a problem. But, like at the end of the day, I'm always gonna still review this stuff because I love doing it. But folks, have to understand that I'm not gonna see what they see all the time. Like that's
Right.
I think there's a disconnect there sometimes with fans is I don't always see what they want to see. Like this community, especially the kaiju community. I collect a lot of different things. But I see it more so in the kaiju community than I see it in other communities where they're venomous when it comes to stuff that they don't like. And in my kaiju review panel, I tried to talk about that a little bit, like, and it's like, well, you gotta understand, I'm not you, and I don't like the same things that you do, so
Right.
there's that understanding that happens as well, and you try to get that across, and some folks just don't want to hear it, and I can't do anything about that. Like I should only speak to what I like,
You're putting
and what
yourself
I
out on the
feel is
internet and
right to
hoping people
say.
latch on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back to sort of the origin of this channel, even before you started putting stuff on YouTube. Uh, Before the Ultra, let's say, what was Zilla like as a fan? What was the fandom that brought you up to the door of starting a YouTube channel like this?
Okay, so like I said, I went freelance in 2015. Well, I don't know if I said it, but I went freelance in 2015 from a job that I worked at for 8 years. It was at DC Comics. So I have no problem saying that. And I went freelance. And when I was at DC, I started collecting again. I had stopped for a long time. I was, I don't want to say a collector because I was still like young, but in the late 90s, I was buying a lot of toys, right?
Got it. Got
Um,
it. Yeah.
and once I like finished the School of Visual Arts and went out and like started making my own comics and stuff, I kind of stopped collecting because I was starting to put my money towards making comics, like trying to get
Hmm.
that career going. Um, and then, I was, doing odd jobs here and there, whatever, and, starting my comics career, producing my own books, working with other people, pitching, all that good stuff that goes into comics.
The
And then
hustle,
after
yeah.
years of doing that, I finally landed a job with DC Comics doing lettering, which was just one of the many different things I was doing for my own comics. It just so happened they needed a letterer. They liked what I was doing. I was actually working on a King Kong book when I got noticed, which was very, very cool.
Yeah.
So that kind of, jumped me into DC Comics. And while I was at DC Comics, I made friends with a lot of people in the toy department. That was like their office was almost directly next door to ours. So I got to talk to them a lot, and played softball, go to the bar with them, and just pick their brains because I used to love toys, right? The more I did that, the more I started like, okay, maybe I'm gonna start buying a little bit here and there, and then back in 2013, I believe, the SH Monstars line started, or that's maybe when I started getting it. I think that's when I started getting it. So like, but it was only, the line was only going for maybe like a year and a half or so. So I started like picking those up. And when I went freelance, now that we're caught up there, when I went freelance, I started collecting more heavily. And like I said, I needed something to do with it other than just look at it. So that's kind of like the origin story of getting to UltraZilla.
Got it.
Was that it was like a combo of like learning more stuff about the actual business, and that's why like I look at things from a perspective of like, well, what's going into producing this toy, because I know so many people, in the toy industry already that are doing this stuff, friends,
Right.
So it's just like I gotta look at it from their perspective too. Nobody's trying to screw the fans. It's just like you have a budget and you have to stay within that budget. And I'm sorry, like I'll go back to this, but those glamour shots are meant to sell the product, like a comic book cover is, like a trailer
Yeah.
is. That the trailer is not a movie. The comic book cover, a book cover, is not what you find inside the pages. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Yeah.
like it's different. So I don't understand why toy collectors get so hung up on the final product having to look exactly like those product shots that you saw like months ago before production even started, before like more changes had to happen because of budget, because of like changes from the licensor. Like there's so many things that go into making toys that folks just don't understand. And that's one of those things that I try to educate people about, and they don't want to hear
Yeah.
it at the time, but I try,
No, they're upset. They're angry people on the internet don't wanna hear they're wrong. They wanna hear they're
No.
angry. So so you got into a lot of this stuff. What were you primarily collecting before the channel? Were you kind of focused on one thing, or was it what like, I guess more importantly, what is it you look for in a toy when it comes to your personal collection?
Okay, so when I was like I was saying, I started getting the SH Monster Arts line, the Godzilla line. I moved over to some Ultraman stuff because that was kind of like the sister line. But
Mhm.
then like the stuff that I liked when I was growing up just kind of like I started noticing it again when like Transformers. I'm a huge Transformers
Oh,
fan.
yeah.
Power Rangers, like I love Power Rangers, so I started getting that stuff too. And these days as a collector, I still love Transformers, a ton. I still love like other like super robots as they're called, like there's so many Voltron. I'm a huge Voltron fan ever since I was a kid. So there's a lot of robots that I love that are part of the collection. That's stuff that like whether it does well on the channel or not, I'm still gonna get them because I still love them.
Right.
Like I know most folks that come to my channel love the kaiju stuff more than anything. I mean, I'm called UltraZilla, right? Like I shot myself in the foot right out of the gate with that.
Names on the
But
tin,
that's when I
absolutely.
started doing it, that's what I was like I said, I started with Godzilla, started with Ultraman again. I was like UltraZilla makes sense, right? That's what I'm collecting. But it was like seconds after that where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start getting this stuff again and this stuff again. And Man, I should have called myself something more generic. But you know what? Just like I said, going to cons and hearing people call me by UltraZilla, it's just so cool. Like I just like it a
Totally.
lot, and it's not like I'm not a Godzilla fan. I grew up a Godzilla kid, like a Gamera kid. I loved kaiju like more than anything as a kid. So I mean, to be known as UltraZilla, and it's too cool, like I love it. Channel purposes, it does shoot me in the foot a little bit because I do love a lot of different things. It is what it is. But that's what I love
That's
collecting.
great.
I love I'll be honest. I get more of a satisfaction out of some of the robots I get than some of the Godzilla stuff I get. Because it's
Interesting.
so much more intricate, like, and there's so many different parts, especially if they combine or they transform, like that stuff just does it for me on a different level than like, a kaiju will, which is like very basic, honestly. Um, so for me personally, like I love robots more. Like I think it just is what it is. But that's not saying that I don't love like I'm a huge Mecha Godzilla fan. Like I have a wall of Mecha Godzilla. It's just Mecha Godzillas in
That's
my
amazing.
studio. So, you know, it is what it is.
So on the two sides of the toy spectrum, as an outsider, and I'll say, and maybe there's a little more intricate than this, but the two sides of the toy spectrum in my head, you have the unopposable Sofubi vinyl style toy,
Mhm.
and you have the like buy it at Akihabara, multi-posable, $120 still regular action figure size, but they come with like two heads, four arms that you can swap out,
Mhm.
and they're meant to be in whatever pose you put them in there. Where do you lean, or do
I
you
lean
see
on the
that
more
both have?
articulated side. I
Okay.
definitely lean on the more articulated side. But that's not to say that I don't love Sofubi or, just X plus, like, or, the more realistic, and the more realistic Sufubi, as I like to call them. There's a lot of different like subgenres in kaiju collecting, but there's these statues, like these Mondo statues behind me. They're
Right.
amazing. They're just really gorgeous stuff, but it's just different. So I like it all, but I would say like. I definitely lean more towards the articulated figures. I've always just been more like I like fiddling with stuff, and I guess that goes hand in hand with like love fiddling with the robots and combining them and transforming them. I'm
Right,
also very
right.
handsy when I like, like as people like to say, like someone, at Kaiju Brooklyn was like, I was like, they were like, hey, you're UltraZilla. I know you by your hands. I'm like, what?
They're
Weird,
paying
but like
attention. That's great.
awesome. Like so it's an interesting thing, but like yes, I the feel of a figure is very important to me. So that playability is a real big thing for me.
That's awesome. Um, you mentioned your family earlier. They helped you out during the con because obviously you had to both your table as well as were running around, doing the panels and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Has and you had this break you discussed before between your early collecting days and your current collecting days. Has being a father changed how you view toys and collecting?
Well, it's a really interesting thing, right? Because um, my son, like he Ultrazilla Junior, he likes the toys, but he doesn't gravitate towards them as much, and I think that's because there's so much here.
Hmm.
Like there's so much that comes in. It's just not special anymore. He's more like into the video games
Mm.
and stuff like that. He loves Japanese anime and tokusatsu. He loves all of that. Like we watch Ultraman, we
That's
watch
great.
anime together. Like he's into all of it. But as far as like the toys themselves, like even though I keep buying him stuff, like here, this is for you, it's like, yeah, right. Like, let's play video games instead. Which is totally fine, like he loves his Tamagotchis too, so he's
Right,
into
right.
a lot of the Japanese culture stuff, like so it's really cool. it's it didn't really change much for me as a collector because he's been into everything that I've been into. If anything, he's changed me. Like, and maybe that's what you mean. He like because he's gotten into stuff that I've never been into, like Digimon and Pokemon. The like I just didn't grow up with those as
Right,
much,
right.
so like he's into them and he's gotten me into them and I've reviewed a bunch of Digimon and Pokemon toys on the channel and that wouldn't have happened if he wasn't into it. So
Valid.
there's that. I think he influences me more than I influence him, I think. These days, like because I influenced him with all that stuff, early on and he got into it and then he took it and went on, and in his own path. Like he's into things that evolve, so
Right, right.
all of
So
those.
he's expanded your range a bit
Yeah.
of subject matter.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, that's bound to happen, like, but it's great to be able to share all that stuff, and enjoy that stuff. Like, we love Kaiju number 8 now. Like, that's like
Yeah.
an amazing anime, and like, for any Kaiju fan that hasn't watched it yet, like, I wholeheartedly recommend checking out Kaiju number 8. It's so so good.
Okay. So do you have like your toys and his toys, or does he have full reign of the collection?
No, he's got his own stuff, like that stays up here in the apartment, and all my stuff is in the studio. Like other than these two statues, which I moved just for this. So,
I feel special.
like all of my stuff is in the studio. So like I keep it there, or else my wife would kill me.
I know what that's like. Fair enough. Um, let's talk about the studio a bit because at the beginning of this year, at least based on your channel, and correct me if I'm wrong, you had a flood
I
down in the
did.
studio,
I
correct?
did.
What I mean, with such a collection, and you've been, collecting these things had the channel for over 5 years,
Yeah,
6 years at this
gonna
point, like
be
for a
8
while,
years, I believe, this year. In
8
like a
years.
week.
So this is at least 8 years of collecting at risk
Yeah.
in what sounds like an overnight disaster. Talk about that. Like, what happened? How's the recovery been?
Well, there's been, I mean, everywhere, it's been increasingly worse storms, right? And,
Mhm.
here in NYC, it's been worse and worse. And you keep hearing more and more about like, flooding and people at risk of floods and stuff. So, over the years, it's just gotten, a little bit scarier because where we live, it's kind of on a corner and there's a sewer. And if it backs up, it could back up into the house depending on the way the water's flowing. It hasn't really happened to a major level ever. We've
Mhm.
had like scares where it's like, oh my god, what's going on? Like coming up out of like the like utility sink, and but
Oh,
like it's kind of
geez.
stopped there. And then there was a storm, but it wasn't that big of a storm. Like it wasn't one of these crazy big storms that we've had. Like the week prior, we had a massive storm, and my aunt, who also lives near here, had her whole basement destroyed.
Oh,
Like
no.
so that was only like a week or so before that, and this particular storm wasn't that bad. So I thought nothing of it. We were going out, and it was a Sunday. We were just gonna go out. I forgot where we were going. Whatever. Like we were just heading out. I was like, oh, let me run down to the studio to grab something really quick before we leave. I opened the door and I'm like, something seems off here, right? Like I saw like a glimmer, and then like as I
Huh.
got closer to like where the bathroom is, that utility sink, and then towards my studio, it was like water like everywhere. I'm like, and like a good
Ugh.
amount of it. I'm like, ah. And unfortunately, and this is on me, like I buy too much stuff. So I have stuff piled and piled and piled. I have like backlogs of stuff and too many
Right.
boxes. And I've been meaning to move my stuff into plastic crates like for a while. Like I have a bunch, but not enough, right?
Yeah.
So there was a
Yeah.
lot of stuff, a lot of boxes mostly. Like as far as toys go, I think I had like one thing that was just like, I'm just gonna toss that, whatever. But it was mostly boxes, like product boxes that got like wrecked. But it was like shocking because again, it wasn't the worst storm. It was just a perfect storm of whatever was going on in the sewer outside that kind of got
Ugh.
backed up. So I don't know. I really don't know. Like it was a weird thing. It was unexpected, and it just led to like basically a week of like cleaning up and like having to deal with like plumbers and trying to figure it out. But at the end of the day, they didn't have nothing major had to happen at that point, which we
That's
were
good.
lucky. Because we got a second opinion. Like originally, it was gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna be displaced for a while,
Oh,
um,
no.
with the work they've had to do. But then we're like, something seems off about that. Like, so we had somebody else come and look at it, and they were like, no, you don't have to do anything right now. The water's flowing again. And honestly, shout out again to my wife because she actually later on figured out where the problem was, and it was actually not the sewer that was
Oh,
it is the sewer on one end, but we have like a storm drain that kind of like goes from the roof that empties into the same piping that goes back into the house out towards the sewer line. So
okay.
that's what was backing everything up because the water, again, major storms now, rushing through, backing stuff up, slamming into whatever is going on in the sewer outside and coming back. So we actually fixed that pipe, saved a ton of money by just fixing that and sending it out a different way. And we've had some really bad storms, as you know,
Yeah, oh,
recently,
yeah, absolutely.
like that did absolutely nothing, not even a peep. So we think we
Wow.
figured, I think she figured out the problem. So shout out to her. Luckily, I have been, in that time since, January, I've been able to make sure there's no boxes on the floor anymore. So
R
there's a lot of
how
other
much?
stuff on
How
the
much?
floor. It's
Yeah, oh, yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
But, and things get backed up, especially in the last month. It's just like I've had a deluge of stuff come in. So I've just been a little
It's
bit
a
backed
good
up.
problem to have. It's a good
Yeah, I
problem to
guess so.
have. So how much in the end got lost from your collection in this
No, just
case? Was
I
it a
really,
lot or
honestly, I only lost one piece
that's great.
collection. I got really lucky. It was just boxes, like a lot of, collectors love
Mm,
boxes. Um, the work was annoying, but honestly, I saw it as a good thing to get rid of a bunch of stuff. I was just like, forget it. It's like, sometimes you just need something like that to say, hey, there's too much here. You can't breathe. So
yes.
then get rid of a
Am
bunch of
I
stuff.
going
So,
to miss this or is it just taking up
right.
space? I feel like there's always a bit of
Yeah.
that kind of as a self-proclaimed pack rat, I've always had trouble with that, so blessed for you to to figure that out, even if it took a storm to do so.
Yeah.
Um, when you had the plumbers come through, was there a lot of, like, questions about the collection?
Honestly, no. Got nothing.
Really?
And it wasn't the first time we've had a major issue going on. We had a major gas line issue just a couple of years back. If you go back to channel, and that actually wrecked my studio. They actually had to
Oh my
come into my
god.
studio and break the ceiling in one corner. So that actually like displaced me for months. And that was in
Wow.
2021, and yeah, like so, yeah, it's been an issue. There's been other issues down there, but that's because we had like a small gas leak, um, which was not good. So
Yeah, no, for sure, for
yeah, so that
sure.
had to be that was worse, and those people saw more of my collection than anybody else, and nobody said a word. So I don't know, not even a
Alright, so let's
question.
that's honestly, that's wild, but that also feels very New York, right? No one's
Yeah,
gonna actively
nobody
point
cares.
anything out. There's just ignore it, keep moving on,
Yeah.
the world is strange. Um, let's get back into the toy review and stuff like that. So you've been in the space now for a good while. Um, I wanna throw to you, what do you think is the primary appeal for the world of online reviewing, toy reviewing and stuff like that? Like, what have you found that draws people in, and what do you think that this corner of, I guess, the YouTube market, for lack of a better term, is missing?
Oh man, this is a tough question because see, there's way more successful folks than me doing this, right? And part of that is myself, like because I think I keep things too real, you know, like but I also play things very straight. Like I'm not like trying to make it about myself, you know, like I'm not trying
Right.
to make it like a comedy show.
There's no smoke and mirrors
I'm
here,
not, you know,
basically.
like trying to do something that it's not like, and that's totally, I'm not like against anybody doing that. It's just not me. It's not what I do. And what I do, I guess it doesn't bring in as much as you know, this constant growth since the beginning. It's just been slow growth. You know, it's been so slow. And I see other folks like, you know, fly past me, and I've seen it for years. It is what it is. But I think one of the things people like is, you know, folks telling them what they like. You know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
agreeing with them. People like to hear, you know, what they like to hear. People
People
like
want to be
drama.
validated that their opinion is correct.
Right. People like drama, you know, negativity sells. Like I said, I'm not really
Mm.
a negative person, you know, and I try not to make my reviews negative. You know, I mean, toy collecting should be happy. Like, enjoy your toys,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? Um, and I think negativity sells. And I think, you know, there's reviewers that lean into that. You know, there's reviewers that lean in much more positively, you know? So being this kind of like midpoint that, you know, like is on the side of the company sometimes because I understand what it takes to, you know, make the toy, kind of puts me in a weird spot sometimes with folks. And I feel like they less want to hear that, but I feel like if I didn't provide that, who is, and nobody else is. Like I honestly, and I follow a lot of folks, you know, doing this, not just kaiju folks, but a lot of other toy reviewers. Because again, I follow so many different genres, and I don't get as many. I don't see as many folks approaching it the way I approach it. Maybe
Right.
one day that'll, you know, be something folks appreciate. I don't know, you know, but you know, I get like my videos that are like, you know, do gangbusters. And then, you know, I get a string of like duds. It is what it is, you know, like, but I'll keep doing it. I love doing it. The appeal for me is just being able to talk about it, like why I got into it in the first place, you know? You know, my wife is always telling me, you know, you like sharing your opinions, she pushed me to be able to do this. Share your opinion. Go make money on that. Do something
Right.
else where you can
Mm.
share your opinions because that's what you're good at. You come from it from an interesting perspective. It's just getting people aboard on that perspective that's always been hard, you know, like you're
Right.
either gonna do great with it or not. And, you know, it is, you know, I can't change who I am or, you know, I don't want to change who I am, you know,
No.
like, and I'll improve my channel incrementally as I see fit and as time goes. But, you know, I want that to be a natural thing. I always want it to be like organic. And you know, however I approach it and change, you know, it's going to happen from a place of like, okay, that made sense to go that way, or to think that way. But like, I don't see how different it would be because I always want to keep it real, you know?
Yeah, and I have to assume that, like, the loyal fan base that you do have, and the one is there, you've mentioned being recognized at cons, for your hands even, um, enjoy and respect the fact that that is what you're doing. Like, and maybe it's not gonna get the fair weather here and there, but, you know, it's and what we've seen with success on YouTube in general, both, and professionally and personally, is that, you know, bouncing the large views of the people who are just gonna pop in and pop right back out doesn't help you in the long term.
Right.
But steady growth is a sign of success. That steady growth is that, and people do latch on to honesty. And I think it's good that that is the approach you're taking here with your toy reviews.
But thank you. I mean, like I try to, I try to feel like, the everyman. Like I want to folks to understand that I'm a collector too. I'm not, like yes, I've gotten free stuff before, but like I've bought. So I put myself in debt. I'll be honest with you, buying a ton of this stuff. And yet here I am, producing daily videos. I'm not like, coasting on like, those bunch of videos that did like enormous numbers. I'm
Right.
constantly putting out videos like every day. I'm doing my best to do it at least. You're gonna have times where, you can't do it, but I try to stay ahead a little bit. So even if I'm like sick for a
Hmm.
few days, like I had videos lined up. Doesn't always happen. You catch up. You have real life work. You have like events you have to go to. You can't always do it, but as much as I can, I try to stay daily. And that's a thing too. Like folks don't like daily. Like folks like a little break. So there's gonna be those videos that aren't watched, but like I think folks at this point that do watch me understand it's not you, it's me. Like that this is a me thing. I have to do it. Like I'm crazy. Like I have to keep doing it. I really love doing it and I like putting out as much as I do. Building a body of work. I've had like well over 2,000 reviews and that's just reviews.
Stress.
That's just reviews. It's a body of work, like that I am very, very proud of. Like I said, I'm in the comic industry. I do comic book lettering. I have thousands upon thousands of pages of lettering with, of art out there with my lettering on it. And that is fantastic and that's awesome, but it's different. Like it's just like a
Right.
piece of the puzzle that folks don't like really ever like talk about. With this is it became a body of work that I am more proud of than anything else I've done because it's just like I did so much of it. Like it's just awesome to see for me personally. Like from a personal gratification thing, like I'm so proud of what I've done here. And hopefully, one day more folks will even appreciate it because it's gonna be out there. There's so much of it out there. So
So much. Yeah, I don't want to gloss over this daily thing because uh that's hard. Aren't you tired? Like that's a lot.
if I wasn't freelance, I feel like I would be. But when you're a freelancer, you get a lot of breaks. Like in your jobs. So it's like, I'll have work for like 3 weeks straight, nonstop, boom, 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 and then it's like I could have no work for 3 weeks straight. Like
Right,
it'll
right.
happen. Because books end, and you're waiting for the next thing to start up on whatever. And I'll be honest with you. In the last 2 years, that the comic book industry, for me, hasn't been as crazy busy as it has been. So I've been able to do daily. Like before that, I wasn't able to
Mm.
do it as much. I'd get like strings of days in a row and then break. But in the last 2 years, I've really been able to ramp this part of my life up even more and do what I've wanted to do, mostly because, that stuff has slowed down a little bit. It's like I'm still getting a,
Right.
a, a good amount of work, but it's definitely changed. A lot, publishers come and go, folks that you're working with, like move on to other publishers. They're not, doing the same exact thing. Your contacts, just dry up sometimes. It is what
Right.
it is. That's any work, honestly. But it's afforded me time to be able to do this. I'm also teaching lettering now at
Oh,
School of
wow,
Visual
okay.
Arts. So that's awesome. Like I've been able to do that. And that's been amazing. So, I like being busy, I Am I tired? Sure, but I'd rather be tired and like satisfied with what I'm doing, than anything else. I love doing it, so it's not a problem being tired.
What was the primary push when you decided, "Yeah, I'm gonna start pumping these out on a daily basis?" Was just one day waking up and be like, "I got the time, why not?" Or did you see something, like, in your metrics? So, like, where did that
You know what?
drive come from?
As far as metrics go, and this is, folks live and die by metrics sometimes on YouTube. And I've stated this many times on like vlogs that I've done. I try not to live my life by the metrics, because I'm not. If I was trying to make this a living,
Mhm.
like, it would be a different story. But because then you really have to follow. But if if I'm gonna do this right, I got to do it, by the way my heart says for me to do it, not by what numbers tell me to do. I got to be happy
Yeah.
with what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and everything else will catch up. To this day, subscribers have climbed again slowly, but they keep climbing.
Mhm.
Like, the views. I have really great ones and really bad ones. It is what it is. But I'm not gonna do what numbers tell me. I'm gonna do what I tell me, and I try
Got
not
it.
to pay attention to that. So it wasn't a metrics thing because I'll look at it and go, oh, cool, that did great. Like I'm happy about those numbers. I look at the numbers, I just don't apply them. Because I don't want oh look, that negative review did so good. I got to do more, get more negative. Like I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that. Um, so and it wasn't a thing where I woke up one day and I started doing this. It's just, I said this before, like literally before.
Yeah.
I've had strings of a ton of in a row, and then I've had breaks. And every time I've had that break, I'm like, damn, I was doing so, like I had so many in a row. So it's always something that I've strived to do. Like,
Mhm.
but not consciously. Like it wasn't a goal to do it. It was just more of like, okay, I'm finally doing it now, and then let's keep it going as much as I can. And again, there's gonna be breaks. Like it's just
Right,
it
right.
is what it is. It's inevitable. Like last year after Kaiju Brooklyn, I had NYCC followed by another con, and I was like so sick after that. Like like there was definitely a couple of days there where I was definitely not on the channel. So even in last year where I almost did it, once again, like there was a break, but I try. I try to do it as daily as possible, and so far, it works for me. Like, it's not like I'm gonna go back. Even if there's a break, I'm not gonna go, okay, now I've had a break. I've seen, how this affects things. I'm gonna go to 3 a week or whatever. I have too much stuff. I gotta cover it. Like, it's just like I gotta get it going. Like,
These
and
toys aren't
the
gonna unbox
reviews are how I
themselves.
play with toys. You know, like that's
Mhm.
how I appreciate it. Like when I review it, when I get it in front of the camera, when I move it around, like I don't like just sitting. I don't sit here and just play with toys or look at them. I don't. Like I'll watch TV. I'll go out. I'll do other stuff.
Yeah,
So I've limited my enjoyment of toys to the channel, basically.
that's great. So, changing a little bit of gears here, you talk a little bit of how you've got a bit of a unique perspective, right? You're familiar with what goes into the business side of the toys industry. You know what hurdles these companies that are making them have to face or why they make some of the decisions that they do. So, let's start playing bad guy again. What is it that some of these companies, some of these toy manufacturers, what can they do better that they're not doing right now? Well, what you know why they make the decisions that make some people angry, but what are the decisions they're making that maybe kind of tick you off, and what would you like to see that industry go from the business side?
Uh, I mean, look, this is a tough one, like, because there's so many ways to go about this, but
And not
I
all toys
mean,
are the same, obviously. You can't compare
yeah.
it's apples to oranges sometimes.
it's tough. Like you want to say, listen to the fans more, see what they want, what they're, complaining about, where the complaints are.
Yeah.
Like, is it in the materials you're using? Is it in the way you're engineering your joints? Is there something wrong there? Like, what is happening? Is it just because folks don't like the final product compared to those picks? Or like, should you come together more? I would say that's probably the biggest deal. Is the final product not looking like those first shots? I would
Hmm.
say if companies, I would try to make it a little bit closer. Like if you can, if you have that power, why aren't you doing it? Like because
Right.
that is the one of the biggest complaints folks have. And like I said, I get it. I get why it happens. Like so that always goes into my review because I get why it happens. But is there a way for it not to happen? Because is there a way to ensure your final product comes out closer to your initial promo picks? Because that's why folks are angry. That's why collectors get angry in the community. So what's happening there is something that companies could improve upon, but how do you improve upon it? More QC checks, maybe, being more understanding about your budget compared to like what folks are enjoy the most about your toy.
Hmm.
You need to make a budget cut, make it in a section where folks aren't complaining about. So like there's various things you can do, but like me saying this from here and not being there is tough. Like even there, like, and I
Yeah.
acknowledge that it's a very very tough thing to do. So um I mean, like, I would love for folks to see what I see when, I'm reviewing a toy and to understand why I love it. But some folks can't do it. And I get that. And I get why, you know, um, one of the things that, is a major talking point is price. Like everybody, things are way more expensive now than they were pre-pandemic, and that's understandable from a business perspective because material costs have gone up. You know, employee wages have gone up. Everything has gone up. Factories are charging way more now than they did before, just because of what's involved. And I get that, but like when you do increase all of this, all of the prices, folks are expecting your quality to match that, and if it's not matching that, that is a problem for sure. You know, whether I like the final product or not, like whether I understand, okay, what happened here is this, but I still like the product, doesn't change that they as a company should strive to please everyone.
Right. What trends are you seeing right now in the industry? Where do you see these companies currently going? Whether or not they're following what you and it sounds like the fan base would like him to go. Every company's has their ups and downs, their ins and outs. Where is the particular portion of the toy industry you're in right now? Where do you or you cover? Where do you see that currently heading? What is being favored, and what do you think is kind of the next steps?
Well, there's a lot more, like, if we're gonna, like, talk about just the kaiju stuff, right? There's a
Yeah.
lot more companies producing articulated kaiju figures right now, which is good. Bandai, I mean, even though they've already had their line of kaiju figures in SH Monster Arts, they're also producing now cheaper alternatives that are articulated, which is really, really good.
Hmm.
So you're seeing more on the market than you ever have before. You're seeing like, Playmates are doing, Godzilla. They've been doing Godzilla movie figures for a little while now. Godzilla X
Right.
Kong and stuff, Godzilla versus Kong before that. So when you go into like a Target or Walmart, it's got a presence again, which is great. So you're seeing a lot more on the market, and that's good. The trend is it's trending. Kaiju toys are trending up, which is great. So across the board, there's a lot more choices, and that's fantastic. There's a lot to like and about where everything is going. Um, and I see improvement across the board. Honestly, I have. It's just there's a lot of fun toys out there, and it's not just in kaiju toys. Like, Transformers are better than they've ever been. Like, and that's the mainline stuff that you can buy on the shelf.
Yeah,
Like that.
that's evergreen too. Transformers have been on top, and I don't think they're ever going away anytime
No,
soon.
I mean, since their inception, and since 1984, it's been a constant.
Right.
And they're better than they've ever been. Um, and that's amazing. And that's awesome. You see some of these big companies, Hasbro, Mattel, like really honing in and like, narrowing in on the collector's market more, and their toys have like grown and become better. There's so many great alternatives for folks that like love like superhero figures and like Marvel Legends is out there doing great. McFarlane Toys is doing DC
Right.
figures that are
Yeah.
doing great. Mattel has the Jurassic Park line, which has like a sub, collector's line, the Hammond collection, which is fantastic. If you like dinosaur figures and you like them more articulated and more, you know, just detailed, that's like a perfect line for you where you're not breaking the bank. So across the board, you're seeing so much more attention paid to the collector's market than you have before. And that's great for everyone across the board. Like, competition is at a high level, and that brings a lot of great toys for a lot of fans. Of course, it's going to bring a lot of fighting too between fans of
Of
what's
course.
better or not. But that's all preference, like it is what it is. Like, folks, this is one of those things that I'm always stressing is your opinion is your opinion. It's subjective. There's no real objectivity here. And that's another thing I was like a pet peeve when I hear like reviewers saying, objectively, this is no,
No, there's
you're
no
about
such
to
thing.
state an opinion no matter what. Unless you're like
It's a
pointing out
review.
one specific thing on the figure that we all can see, it's right there, whatever. No, it's not objective. It's it's subjective, and you
Yes.
know, um, but that's fine. Like it is what it is. But across the board, we have a lot more choices, and I think things are trending upwards. If things were a little bit cheaper, it would be nice. But I get it too. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I don't see that going back the other
No,
way.
God, no.
Unfortunately, like
In this economy,
that's not going to happen. But toys are fantastic right now. There's so much to choose from. Whatever genre you're going for, I think you're going to be happy with the choices you have, which is a great thing.
great. So we're gonna wrap up here, but before we go and all our plugs and everything, my last question, as we talk about the future, what are the future goals? What are you hoping? Any changes you plan on making? What does the future have set for UltraZilla and his YouTube channel?
I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, keep growing. Growing the subscriber base. Hope there's that one thing that like it propels me forward and gets people to notice everything else that I've done. So that's not on me though. I'm just gonna keep doing what I do, and I keep tweaking. I keep tweaking the looks of the video a little bit, changing, where exactly I'm shooting. I like to keep it fresh. Like so, every few months, like maybe a couple times a year, I'll change it. I'm due for a
Mhm.
change right now because I'm coming up on my anniversary, and that's usually when I like to change stuff. I always like changing stuff at the beginning of the year too. Um, I like to change my thumbnail style a lot. That's as a comic book letterer and a designer. That's like one of those things that I enjoy doing. That's I
Right, right.
focus so much on that. Like You know, my videos are my videos. They're always gonna be that, and I talked about this in the panel as well. But when it comes to the thumbnails, if they're not looking as good as I could possibly make it as a designer, then I'm hurting myself.
Oh,
Like
for sure, for
so
sure.
that's like something I'm always tweaking and making better. But the same. I plan to do things the way I'm doing. I don't really feel like there's any major changes happening here. I'm just gonna keep going, and hopefully, good things happen. We'll see.
Well, what a great note to end on. UltraZilla, man, thank you so much for hopping in, taking the time to chat with me out of your day.
Thanks for having me.
Before I let you go, where can people find you?
You can check me out at UltraZilla Toys on YouTube, as well as Instagram and Facebook. Those are my three major hubs for the UltraZilla brand.
Wonderful. And of course, we're here. It's you can follow me at Boss Monster Kaiju just about everywhere but X because I can't have nice things on X. It's Boss Monster Kaiju. I hate that. Otherwise, be sure to like, subscribe. Let me know what you think about the video. Give UltraZilla some love on his YouTube page. Go ahead and subscribe over there. Daily content. I can't do that. I don't have the energy for that shit. But he does. It's pretty wild. So enjoy, both of us. Again, Ultra, thank you so much for hopping on. And for the rest of you, until next time, stay cool, stay hip, stay heavy.